Welcome back to Whitt Acres. Today we're going to be doing planting by the pond. It's a gorgeous day out here today, and I'm really behind on my annual plantings, and we need to get the pond dressed up for the 4th of July tomorrow. Ducks. And we're gonna have the ducklings in the pond here keeping us company as we do some planting. And we need to do some cleanup on the pond bank again here before we get the new plants in. Now I have some plants I started in the greenhouse, and I also stopped at Lowe's yesterday and picked up some more. So we have some proven winter petunias here that we're gonna be putting in the pond bank, and a couple other things I picked up to get planted as well. But I did already get started on some cleanup here, so I'm gonna throw you back, get you all caught up on that, and then we'll get started today. Look at this gorgeous lily hanging over here in full bloom. A deep red. Gorgeous. And we're still getting some orange daylilies blooming all around the property as the hostas start coming in as well. Gorgeous. So as the hostas are coming into full bloom, we're getting some nice views around the property. I do need to get caught up on mowing, but our mower is still broken right now. I am trying to keep things weed whacked so everything doesn't get too out of control. We're working on getting these pots cleaned up and planted today, and the rose bed cleaned up. But I'm hoping we can get the mower fixed and get everything mowed and cleaned up looking good before the hostas are done, so we can do another garden tour here in July. The orange and purple works. Goldie on. Cleaning up all the duck feed. Gonna get a sunburn on your back, girl. I keep the ducklings' feed on the beach there, and whenever they eat, they dip it in the water, and a lot of the scraps go to the fish. Teamwork, ducks. Good. Getting some sun now. But now that we're going to be getting to work on the pond bank here, getting some things planted, I can let Mumbles and the birds out to the duck pond. It's a beautiful day to go to the pond. Girl? Oh, and if we have time, the geyser. If we have time, we'll head down to the vegetable garden. I'll give you an update down there. It's not all good news. Pup. Alright, pup, I think things are looking a little better around the pond now. We got the stair pots planted up, and I ended up using geraniums in the bottom 4 pots and then petunias up here at the top. These are the yellow super petunias. My original plan was to put a geranium in each pot. I actually bought 6 and I had them soaking in the water down there. But unfortunately I had a couple of ducklings down there that thought they looked like a good snack. Ducklings. You birds. They ended up destroying 2 of them and they chewed up 2 other ones. I ended up putting those 2 down in the bottoms of the pots, but hopefully they're gonna make it. They still had the main root attached, they just looked a little rough. So we got these pots weeded out and we got fresh plantings in them, and I think the staircase is looking a lot better. I did get the weed whacker out and do some cleaning up around the steps here, open this up a little bit, but I wanted to leave some of the vines reaching over because I like the overgrown look of the hosta coming out of the steps. I also got the rose bed over here cleaned out, and we do still have some roses in here. We have a yellow one over there in the corner. That one's more of a peachy orange, and then this one's kind of red, but it has small buds. And I actually had a climbing rose from the end of last year. I picked it up on sale, and I kept it in a pot all winter long, but this thing still had some life on it, so I decided to go ahead and plug that in the ground next to the trellis, and we'll see if it'll take. My mom does want a nice rose garden next to the patio here eventually, once I figure out how to grow roses. Now I also picked up a patio palm that was on sale at Lowe's the other day, and I got that up potted in the corner here, really tying together the seating area here at the patio. And I also picked up a white elephant ear, and I'm thinking about using it in the next patio pond setup I do. This one needs a refresh. Pup, but things are looking better here around the pond. I still have some cleaning up to do with the perennials on this side, but we're still getting a lot of bloom, so I don't want to take that away from the pollinators until I'm ready to get some plants in there. And I do have some starts over at the greenhouse I need to get in, but I'm not going to have enough time tonight. Pup. There's some mama hens up at the barn that need my help. But I got some of the weeding done around the pond here, and we are still getting blooms from the sedum, even though the ducklings like to nest in here. But right behind the waterfalls, I plugged in the lemongrass. That's gonna get a little bit bigger and have a nice fragrance to it. Oh, I see you running around, turkey. Little peepers aren't big enough to go to pasture yet. Gotta keep them in the yard. Hey, fishies. How you doing in there? Those ducklings aren't bothering you, are they? They keep giving you extra feed, huh? But having the ducklings down here in the koi pond does help out a good bit with the hair algae. As you can tell, there's really none floating around here except for in the waterfalls where the ducklings can't really reach. Now they could start climbing into the garden and getting up there if they want to, but they pretty much stay in the pond and stay on the inside of the pond whenever they come out, and I like it that way. I don't have a fence around the pond, so I don't need them running off. But I think it's looking a lot better on this side of the waterfalls. As the sunflowers and the hostas are coming into bloom, the cosmos is starting to bloom as well, and I did get the super petunias planted in there. And I went with a purple and white combination of super petunias over here, and hopefully those are going to fill in the whole area and have a nice colorful bed. We have the sunflowers blooming, the hostas blooming, and we do have some gladiolas coming up again. They're almost blooming here on the pond bank. There are a lot of stems right there. I really should get some bamboo in here and get these staked. I don't think we have a storm on the forecast just yet, but they're vulnerable right now about to bloom. And there's a hosta that snuck in the front there. Purple and red's gonna be a good combination too. We have a red one starting to bloom over here by the patio. Gorgeous. Now with tomorrow being the 4th of July, the family's gonna be hanging around, and I wanted to get the pond bank planted up, cleaned up, and looking a lot better. And with the mower still down, we can't get the yard cut, so I wanted to get something looking good. Pop. I know, that's a lot of Chinese forget-me-not. Focus. Good. Oh, the geyser. Gorgeous, huh, ducks? Now, I still need to get this wheelbarrow down to the compost, but we're going to head down to the vegetable garden. I'm going to give you an update on the pumpkin patch and the cabbage. Oh, and also behind the waterfalls, next to the lemongrass, I got another ice plant planted. I used to have one of these in the island garden, and I think it got stepped on. That or the chicken scratched it up. Hopefully this one will last a little bit better up here next to the falls. Ducks. You like my sedum? Good. Now most of you know we're trying to grow a giant pumpkin, something that's over 100 pounds. Oh, we did get a bloom from the calla lilies. Gorgeous. And there's a bunch more in here with the hostas. This is looking good. I need to get the pathways all weed whacked down. But the calla lilies, the butterfly bush, and the gladiolas are coming in. Gorgeous. Oh, I just left the water on. Hopefully we didn't pop the pumpkin. It's been hot lately and we didn't get much rain the other 2 days, so I wanted to get this watered in nicely. And yes, it was getting watered and we have some puddling. That should be okay. She's been drinking heavily and you can see how much she's been growing right out of the fence here. I didn't move the fence in the last few days and it has been growing right through it. It definitely has some weird genetics going on here in the vines, and we got a vine clump over here. I don't even know what's going on. Look at all that growth. Yeah, I actually flooded the patch here. Hopefully all that water's gonna get sucked up by these big leaves. But we also have some pumpkins on the vine here. I did show you that we pollinated 2 pumpkins and they did start to grow. Now during that hot spell, we were up over 100 degrees for a few days in a row. It actually burned off my main tip. I should have had it in the shade, but it fizzled my main tip up and I ended up getting a bunch more secondary. So we have a pretty round plant right now. But I'm gonna take a step in here and show you what we have pollinated. We have one little one right here. This was a self-pollination. This is actually the one that's in the better position of any of them. Oh, this one's not in a bad position either. But these are on the main stem, I think. Oh, these are actually maybe on the secondary after the break. But the ones we pollinated are actually right after the break in the main stem, so I'm not sure if they're gonna be the best to go. Oh, look at these pumpkins. They are growing. I'm gonna have to cut this left one off. Give this right one some room. They're not gonna be able to grow like this, but look at this break right there. That thing healed up nicely and it's still pushing a lot of power out through the stem. And that's going right to both of these pumpkins. Look at these getting big, real big. Now don't get your hopes up. There's a good chance that these still rot off or even split. What's going on there? Looks like a little stress. But these pumpkins are not in the ideal spot. So they're really not the ones I'm trying to grow big, but I'm not gonna cut them off until I have another one set. And this one isn't too bad right here. I think it's coming on a side vine after the break. It's not affected by the split. Now I think this might actually be the pumpkin I go with, try and get this one big and actually cut these other ones off. I'm not gonna cut them off yet until I make sure this one's actually started. But these 2 are not in a good position to get big. They're gonna end up growing into the vine, actually breaking their own stem off of the vine. So we actually need to position the vine with a little bit more space so we can actually get the pumpkin to stretch out in all directions. And hopefully that's gonna be the one. But we got a lot of pumpkin leaves in here. Looking healthy so far. Oh, watch the zucchini. And I do need to expand this fence out. That might actually be next video. We don't want to let Peter the rabbit in there. Pup, you trying to find him? Good. And for the bad news, my cabbage that has been looking really good did not fare too well through the heat, and some of them are starting to rot away. I really need to get in here and harvest them. I just haven't had the time to get all these off. And I am losing a few already, but some of these look really good. Nice hard heads. I might have to get in here tomorrow morning and get these harvested. Throw them in some salt water, see if any bugs are getting to them. We have some hard heads here. I want to make sure I at least get a little bit of sauerkraut out of this bed. Hopefully we can get some good stuff. Pup, look at all these blooms. Oh, there's Peter. Hey, bud. Stay up there. I don't need you around my pumpkin. You hear me, bud? Good. Pup, Peter the rabbit's over there. But alright, that's going to be all for this one. I still have some work to do up on the homestead with all the mama hens that have been hatching out this year. If you want to keep following along with everything here at Whitt Acres in the gardens and the aquatics, make sure to subscribe down below. And if you want to follow along with all the animals, check out my other channel, Whitt Acres Homestead. And you can see me and Echo on the next one. Thanks for watching. Good boy.